So this week is Parshas Lech Lecha, and as you know, this last week I was away. I left Tuesday to my father, who was having surgery in Toronto, and I was there basically all day long, from morning to night, um, every day. And of course, on Shabbos, there is the Jewish people are so amazing. There's a Bikur Chaylim room, which means that somebody bought an apartment near the hospital, about 2 blocks away from the hospital, so that people who are staying in the hospital can stay there for Shabbat with the people that they're staying with. So I was able to stay over Shabbos with my father as well. Now, during the week, you can distract yourself with so many things. You have your phone, you have your work that you're doing. There's so many things that can distract you. And Shabbat is a little different. And I actually came, like, it was kind of a last minute thing that I was there, that I was able to be there. So I didn't even have like a lot of reading material to read. So you really have a lot of time to think. And so I'm looking out the window. It's, there's a lovely, Toronto's a very pretty city. And on the one side, there's like this big street full of lots and lots of cars, a very busy street, not like our streets here. Like those have like 5 lanes each way, right? And then there's another highway that's like a big highway. And I'm looking at all the cars going so quickly by, zooming by on Saturday. And I'm just thinking, like, I wonder if any of the cars realize that I'm looking at them right now from this hospital window on the 5th floor, looking down at them. And of course we don't, we're all zooming by. Life goes on. Exactly. Yes. There was such a feeling of life goes on, and the rat race of life, like you see in the morning, all the cars and the busy and the rush hours. And, everyone's just rushing to do their thing. And here I was, not rushing to do my thing. So that was one view. Then the other view, a little further the other way, was an empty expanse of land. And there was tons of trees, kind of like here where we have so many trees. And all the trees were turning colors, beautiful colors, like in the fall. And I'm looking at all the change of the colors. And, as I'm looking, I'm thinking, like, is it possible? Like, isn't it just such a preposterous idea to think there's so many trees, so many leaves, that God is really on top of every single leaf, changing each one? It's quite amazing, right? But that's what we believe, that God is really painting each leaf, and it's and you look like from, when you go in an airplane and you kind of look from above and you see like everyone's like this little ant. And you think like someone's watching every single one of those people. But then, of course, in the hospital, you see all the different people coming, and the nurses coming, and then the medical team coming, and the physical therapy team coming, and the medicine people coming, and all the various different people, and even the person who cleans the room. And everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And it feels like there's almost chaos. Like, who's going to come? Who's not going to come? But it's so orderly. Everyone knows exactly what. And then I thought, like, everyone has their exact plan of when they come, how they come. It might look like chaos, but it's all organized. And the same way, and then being that I was so high up, you can see like all the lights of the city. There's big apartment buildings, all of them closing at night and opening. And again, there's a central switch, though, where all the electricity comes from. There's an electrical company that takes care of all these switches. So, we're here in our home here in this home, and, you don't think about, like you're turning on the light, that there's actually a central place where it's all being controlled. And so, yeah, there's a rhyme and a reason to it all. And it's when we're going through the rat race of life that we're just trying to go through and get a speed to our destinations and go to our places, that we don't tend to think about these things. But there is a creator in this world who's taking care of each and every one of us. And when something difficult happens in your life, that's when you stop and you realize, hey, there's a creator, there's a purpose, there's a reason why we're here. And I think with what's happening now in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, it woke all of us up, that we're all thinking, like, there's a purpose. What is the purpose of why we're here? What is there There's a reason for it all. And the reason really starts in this week's Torah portion of Lech Lecha, where God says to Abraham, Lech Lecha, go from your land, go out of yourself and go to the land that I'll show you. And what does it mean when God says, go out of yourself? God is saying, leave yourself to find a higher self. So leave your land, which according to the commentaries means your will, because Eretz is like Ratzon, right? Eretz, land, is like Ratzon, will. Leave your will, leave your father's house, leave all the things that you're used to, the behaviors that you're used to, the emotional upbringing that you're used to. Leave even your intellectual understanding and go to the land that I'll show you. Go to something deep, deep, deep within yourself. Find this deeper aspect of yourself. And I want to share with you something that I saw this week by my parents that kind of reminded me of that. I was just thinking about it on the way here. I was not planning on saying this, but I'm going to share it with you because you're all my friends.
Oh, thank you.
So the way it is with, hello, the way it is in a rabbi's house, my father's a big rabbi, right? And all these years he's a rabbi. And come, join us, it's okay. And he and my mother are both, as you know, 91 years old. Okay, and the way it works is that there are many times throughout the day, there's lots of questions. It's what we call she'elot, questions that you ask a rabbi for halachic guidance. There's all kinds of guidance that people ask him on all kinds of things. And even though my father is now not well, there still is people who call him and come to him. But now he was in the hospital. And on the way out to the hospital, my mother looks into her mailbox, and there's an envelope there with a question for my father.
Wow.
Now, if you, those of you who keep the laws of family purity, the laws of mikvah, you might know that there are times that we have to do internal examinations in order to make sure that we're not bleeding so that we can go to the mikvah. And there's different ways of looking. This is, by the way, a way that very often a side benefit of the laws of mikvah is that a woman is very aware of her body for health reasons. You're aware of your cycle in ways that people are not. You're very aware of your cycle. You're aware of any discharges. You're aware of different colors that come out. You're very aware, and there's been stories of people who were able to actually stave off of a difficult illness because they're so aware of their physical body, which a lot of people are not, because who tends to pay attention to these things. But this is just a side benefit to keeping mikvah. And one of the things that you do sometimes is when you have a color and you're not sure if it's something that is going to make you tahar or not tahar, whether or not you can go to the mikvah or not go to the mikvah, you ask the question to a rabbi. So you'll take a piece of cloth, which is called a bedika. If you come to the mikvah, you'll see it. And you actually give this cloth to the rabbi, who looks at it just like you would to a doctor. And that just like a doctor will tell you, based on colors and based on different things, whether or not this is a healthy thing for you or whether or not you're not healthy. We do it all the time with all kinds of illnesses, from our throat, from all kinds of parts, which we do with a doctor. So in a rabbi's house, this is very common that a rabbi gets these kind of questions. And usually it's put in an envelope and put into his mailbox with a number on it for him to call back and say, he doesn't even always know who the person is giving it, to say if it's whether to give the halachic status, whether it's good or not good. So as we're leaving to the hospital, my mother notices there's an envelope there. I guess someone did not know that my father was not well. And even though he's not been well for a while, and I guess someone did not know that not only was he not well, but he's actually in the hospital. And not only was he in the hospital, but he had just had surgery. But she sees this envelope, and as the wonderful rabbi's wife that she is, who's so devoted to helping people, she doesn't think twice. She takes it in her purse and takes it to the hospital to show to my father, to have him answer the question. Now, my mother is very, very Thank God she's very healthy, but her hearing is a little not so great. You have to talk loud when you speak to her. She has a hearing aid. So she tells me, Hannah, I can't call because I'm not going to hear on this phone. So you call and just tell them. So my father looks at it. He's in his hospital bed, hardly coping, but he's totally, his mental capacity is totally, looks at it and decides it's kosher, it's fine. Hannah, go call the person and say that it's kosher. So this was something. No, actually, no.
Probably would have been upset if like he found out and she didn't bring it. He probably would have been more upset. He would have been upset.
Right, exactly. That's why she brought it. Yeah, because she knew that that's what he would want. Exactly. So I was just, it was just something so natural for both of them to do. Like, no big deal. Like, no one, and I'm just thinking about it as I was driving here. Like, how interesting. But this is lech lecha. Go out of yourself. Go out of your comfort zone. Think out of yourself. It would have been very easy to just say, he's not available right now. Find another rabbi, But that would have meant that the lady has to go back to the house, or the man, whoever dropped it off, has to go back, get the envelope, go to somebody else, find another rabbi. Instead, my mother just took it with, and my father just looked at it from the hospital bed and just naturally says, okay, Chana, call and just tell them.
Did you?
Of course. I left a message and said, I just got this question. Rabbi Shochar asked me to tell you that it's fine. That's it. Hung up. So I'm just saying this is what lech lecha means. When you see something beyond what you are going through right now, when you see a picture that's more than what you are going through now, when you see a perspective that's more than just your will, your natural emotions, your natural behaviors, and you see a responsibility to something bigger than yourself. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Now, I also wanted to share with you that in this week's Torah portion, God speaks to Abraham and he says to him, go, right? This is what we're talking about. And the Midrash explains there, this is like a person who walks into this beautiful palace and says, wow, this is a gorgeous palace with even a chandelier hanging and everything hanging, beautiful furniture, beautiful palace. It can't be that the palace is ownerless. And this is what Avraham did. He says, this is a world with beautiful trees, beautiful things in this world. It's a functioning world. Every molecule is exactly in the right place, exactly how it should be. It can't be that this place has no owner. And so the owner came out and says, hi, I'm the owner. God says to him, because we know that Abraham was looking and searching for God, and he was searching for God for many, many years. According to the different traditions, there's different. Some say he was from when he was 3, some say from when he was 4, some say from when he was 40, some say from when he was 50. And the Rebbe explains that these were all true. At different stages, we all reach different developments in our understanding. We're all searching. You're searching, I'm searching, we're all searching. At every stage in our life, we're searching. We're searching to understand some things more deeply. We're searching to deepen our relationship with God. So when it says that he understood that there was a God at 3 or at 4 or at 30 or at whatever age it was different parts of his development of understanding what this God was. But he did reach this understanding that there's a God, and he calls out to God and says, this beautiful mansion can't be ownerless. Who does it belong to? And he's calling out to that God, and God responds to him. God answers him. And we see from here that, up until Abraham, really, there were people who believed in God, but they didn't try to convince others of God. Abraham was the first one that decided to make it a mission to teach the world about this monotheism, that there's one God in the world. But the way that he taught the people was not only that there's one God in the world. See, until then they thought, okay, some people thought there was idols, and the idols were the ones that were responsible for everything. The idols represented power of nature, the power of the sun, the power of the moon, the power of all different kinds of forces in creation. And these are the things that we have to bow down to because these are the forces in creation. You could say it's almost like what we think of idols as different people who have power, who we look at as our idols, people who we feel are going to help us or we need their help and we're powerless without their help. We could look at a doctor as the one that is the power, or we could say the doctor is just an emissary of God. We could look at money as a god, or we could say money is just an emissary of God that helps us to do what we need to do in our lives. We could look at beauty as a idol in life. These are all idols that we sometimes serve. But in Abraham's stage, there was all these different forces of nature that people served. And even those that believed in a God, in a one creator of it all, which there weren't very many, but even if there were before him some people who did believe in that, but even those believed that the creator was working through the forces of nature. And so we have to serve these forces of nature, as we cannot speak directly to God. God is too beyond. He's too transcendent. He's way beyond us. He's not going to answer little me. And Abraham shows, hold on. If you really, really sincerely want to communicate with God, God communicates with you. God answers you. God hears you. God listens to you. You can have a relationship, a direct relationship with God. God communicates with all of us throughout our day to day, throughout the actions that we have, throughout the circumstances in our lives. If you really want to find that relationship, you can find it. And that's really the message of this week's Torah portion, that God isn't just this transcendent God, but God actually can communicate with each and every one of us. And on that note, I wanted to share with you a beautiful story that I heard that was said by a Rabbi Zaid. He apparently has a seminary in Israel. And did you hear this story? You don't know yet. Sounds familiar? I just saw someone just shared this story. He has a seminary in Israel, and one of the girls in his seminary, one of the students in his seminary said she had 6,000 shekels saved up. It was $1,500 US. You just read the story? Beautiful story. So she has $1,500 saved up. She wanted to use them to help the Jewish people in this terrible situation that we are in. She wanted to use it to buy tzitzit. There's a tremendous scarcity of tzitzit. This is a true story. It just happened now. That's why I said the name, because I wanted you. I don't know who this Rabbi Zaid is, but this is who said the story. His student. So she wanted to use the money that she had saved up to buy tzitzit for the soldiers, $1,500 worth of tzitzit for the soldiers. So Rabbi Zaid told her, it's a lot of money. It's all your savings. You don't have to give the whole thing. You know, in tzedakah, we don't have to give everything. We can give a portion of it, we have to give a portion, but you don't have to give it all. And she was insistent, no, I really want to give the full amount. So he was able to find a way that she could buy $6,000 shekel worth of tzitzit without spending the whole of her money. But at least she would give this amount of tzitzit. So he got this amount of tzitzit, and he says, okay, I got a hold of it for you. So she says, wonderful. Now I want you to go with my brother and give it out to the soldiers in the south, because I know there's a lot of army bases there. I want you to do it. So he explains he wasn't really interested. He was like, I already got you the tzitzit. I did my share. I did enough. But she convinced him, no, you have connections. I need you to do it. So he finally agreed. So he's ready to go. He's going with this car full of tzitzis. He reaches Kavish 262. So I'm going to tell you the actual thing so you know it's a real story. Okay. And they're stopped by an army blockade. And the army blockade says, you can't go any further. You can't go anymore. And they argued, they tried. In Israel, everyone argues. So we tried, they argued. But they said, you can't go any further. And they told them the reason. They said there was 3 terrorists who came in, and 2 of them were intercepted, but there was one that still was loose. so you can't go in. So they waited there. They waited there for